Hi everyone and welcome back to Partners in Crime. My name is Poppy.
And I'm Roger.
And we're back with another case today. I hope you found the last episode interesting. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. And today we are doing a complete case from start to finish. And we're back in the UK as well. Back on English soil.
Home territory.
Actually, it's not English soil.
Oh, is it not?
Scotland.
Scottish soil.
Scotland. It's not a very nice case.
No, they never are.
This one just seems particularly tragic, I would say.
Okay.
It's not interesting.
No,
in the
just
sense
tragic.
of like,
I mean,
it's
they're
just
all
tragic.
I suppose they're all tragic.
Trigger warning. We're going to be speaking about rape, sexual assault, and abuse. So, if you don't want to hear any of that, then this video is not for you.
No, steer clear.
Yeah. Switch off. We don't mind. So, should we get into it?
Yeah.
Okay. Like always, we'll start from the very beginning. In a town called East Kilbride in South Lanarkshire, which is just south of Glasgow in Scotland. A 3-year-old girl named Amber Gibson, born in 2005, and her 5-year-old brother, Connor Gibson, born in 2003. Sorry, I got my dates mixed up then. It's fine. Were removed from their home where they lived with their biological parents, Peter Gibson and Anne-Marie Adams. Anne-Marie was described as much younger than Peter, and they met online. There's not much more information about them though.
No, that's what was the mother's name?
Anne-Marie Adams. I don't know if I said her name correctly.
Right. It's quite an early time to meet someone online, isn't it? In the early 2000s.
Plenty of fish. That's been around for ages,
of course. No,
hasn't
it has. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. The internet was a young thing in 2000 and 2000?
It's not relevant to the story. It's fine.
I know. It's just interesting, isn't it?
Both children witnessed a lot of abuse inflicted on their mother at the hands of their father. He would beat their mother until she was black and blue, drag her by her hair, and put his hands around her throat. So, a piece of shit.
Yeah, pretty horrible.
So, luckily, they were removed from that environment. But unfortunately, I don't know what happened to their mum, if she ended up leaving or not. I'm not sure. I couldn't find that anywhere, but hopefully she did get away from him. In 2008, so we're skipping ahead a little bit, they were taken into the care of South Lanarkshire Council and immediately sent to a foster home in Lark Hall, where Carol and Craig Niven would take care of them. And when they arrived, young Connor, feeling relieved, said, "We are safe now." They went to separate schools. Connor went to Keir Campus in Blantyre, and Amber went to Morehouse Academy, which is a school for children who need extra support due to early childhood trauma, mental health issues, or have social and emotional needs. However, not everything was smooth sailing. Connor and Amber would have their ups and downs, like most siblings do, but Craig Niven, their foster father, describes their placement was strained by Connor's difficult and sexualised behaviour. He also said he would not leave them alone together in the same room, and they were not a good mix together.
The two children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No more information has been released about that situation. Others described Amber and Connor's relationship as complicated and having a turbulent bond. But I couldn't find anything more about this kind of like sexualised behaviour and stuff like that.
But
it's odd behaviour.
The foster parent or the adopted parent.
Foster, yeah.
That was their point of view. That's what they saw and expressed.
He expressed sexualised behaviour. I don't know if it was towards Amber or just a general
sort of
thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It wasn't clear.
Okay.
11 years later, in 2019, Amber is now 14 years old and Connor is 16. For an undisclosed reason, their foster placement broke down. But from the previous description, maybe they couldn't have them both living together under the same roof anymore.
Right.
Maybe there was like an incident that happened between them, like with his behaviour, but I have no idea. That's just a guess. So because of this, Amber would leave and move to Hill House Children Residential Unit, and Connor stayed at the Nivens until he turns 18 years old and is legally an adult. I'm not sure how it was decided who leaves and who stays, but I'm sure that was up to like the South Lanarkshire Council and the
sort of
child services and stuff like that.
You'd think.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what was agreed.
Yeah.
Hill House was only about 15 minutes away from where she had been living for most of her life, so she wasn't far from like her usual surroundings and stuff. So I don't think it was necessarily like a traumatic event, her having to kind of leave the household, but that also wasn't disclosed, like the ins and the outs of that situation.
Yeah.
Not a lot of information has been released on this next part. It was June 2021. And whilst Amber was staying at the Hill House Children's Unit and being looked after by social services, she met someone called Jamie Stars, who is 20 years old, and there were 2 other people as well that she met.
So she would have been 16 at the time?
Around 16,
yeah.
like 15, 16, yeah. She ended up going back to his house in Bothwell, Lanarkshire. It is reported that the next thing she knew, she woke up next to Jamie and she was completely naked.
Right.
In Amber's words, she said, "I was under the covers, but when I went to get up, I felt I didn't have clothes on my bottom half. My trousers were next to me on top of the covers. I saw that the guy, Jamie, was asleep in the bed with me. It was light enough to say that it was him. He then got up from under the covers and he was completely naked. And he put on a red tracksuit and pulled out a blue windbreaker style jacket. And I managed to put my trousers on underneath the covers. I told Jamie I was leaving." Later, in a homeless residential unit in Blantyre, a group of people, including Amber, were discussing a recent TikToker being falsely accused of rape. And Amber was described as going quiet before admitting that had happened to her. Just a reminder, Amber was only about 15, 16 years old at the time. Luckily, a young boy that was part of this conversation told a staff member who immediately rang the police.
Okay.
So that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not always...
Because obviously, if she's 15 at this time, she's underage.
Well, yes, yeah, absolutely.
For a start. And
yeah, it's the kind of thing people don't always report either, isn't it?
Exactly.
At the end of the day.
She's very young, bless her. When the police arrived, Amber told them, "The reason I think I was raped was that I woke up in a bed with no clothes on my bottom half, with a boy I had only met naked under the covers. I can't remember hugging him or kissing him at all."
So she met this Jamie Stars chap at the...
No, it wasn't necessarily at the place she was staying.
Right.
But while she was staying there,
that
this incident happened. It wasn't when she was at the Nivens. It was
right. Yes, yeah.
While she was, but I don't know where she met them. I don't have that information.
Right. Okay.
But like the environment that she is living at the moment is a young people's residential home.
Yeah.
So he could have been staying there as well.
Yeah.
There's multiple other units as well that kind of house people in other situations as well. So it could just have been around that environment that she was staying, but it's not clear.
Okay.
It's not been confirmed, but from her saying, "I don't remember hugging him or kissing him at all," makes it sound as if maybe she had been drugged.
Right.
Which is why she couldn't remember anything.
Yeah, of course.
But like I say, I'm just assuming that. It turns out Jamie was on bail from a previous sexual attack and had already been accused by another girl 2 weeks before this incident as well.
Accused and reported?
I'm not sure if she reported it or not. But I think because this information is out, I would assume yes.
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you? It's all too common that girls get ignored, really.
Even if they were possibly investigating it, they might not have had enough to keep him in.
No, maybe not. I mean,
they were investigating, which is awful.
It's a difficult...
Because he's then gone on to do this. So.
Of course, yeah, no. It's a difficult thing to manage, I guess, as a law enforcement,
Yeah,
side
it's
of
very
things.
difficult. So obviously this guy is a complete piece of shit and shouldn't have been on bail in
No,
the first place.
no. It's funny, isn't it? You almost think, I don't know, maybe when people are accused of these kind of things, they should be put onto, a longer form sort of surveillance almost, until
Yeah.
you can really prove or disprove whether it happened or not.
Just like kind of like what's it called when you're on like house arrest?
Yeah, right.
Like that, but not in such a like.
Yeah, not
You've
so.
done something wrong. House
yeah.
arrest. It's kind of like we just need to know where you are. Like
Yeah.
you're tagged basically.
Yeah,
so we know
yeah.
your location. We know where you are
Yeah.
at all times.
I mean, I don't see what's.
Or like you have to be at home by like 8 p.m.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, I'm not so
until
something,
they figure it out.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And no one has to know.
No, not necessarily. No. Well, no. Yeah, no one has to know, really, do they?
There's got to be a way to
just
get around this because it's
You'd
just
think.
bullshit.
Well, yeah, because it just way too often does someone get accused of something, and then not long after that goes and does it someone else.
Yeah. Well, there's not enough information, so it gets cleared, and then they do it again and again and again. Despite this horrific attack happening, Amber was described as the most giving, loving, supportive, and admirable young girl with an amazing outlook on life, which I imagine would have helped her get through this awful, debilitating time of her life. And at this point, her brother Connor had turned 18 and was now living at Blue Triangle Housing Association Project, a hostel for homeless youngsters in Hamilton. Even though their relationship had always been turbulent, they still kept in touch as much as possible. They had arranged to meet up on Friday the 26th of November 2021. Connor called Hill House Unit to speak with his sister. He spoke with care home manager Ian Curry, and a short time later, Amber left with her brother, despite Ian trying to discourage her from leaving. Angel McKean, a 19-year-old girl who stayed on the same unit as Amber, said, "She said that she was going to meet her brother and seemed quite excited about it." They were seen walking down the streets of Hamilton, and Amber was sending Snapchats to her friends. One specifically, she sent at 9:51 p.m, was a selfie of her and Connor captioned, "My big bro." Around midnight, Connor returned home to his unit and saw Suzanne Duddy, who was on the night shift. He came into the office and slumped into a chair. Suzanne described, "What drew my attention most was his hands. His hands were very, very dirty to his wrists. There was dirt on his shoes. There was a cut on his left shin. He complained there were stings on his arms like scratches. I asked if he was hurt. He didn't answer me." Connor went on to say that him and Amber had an argument, as they usually do, and she stormed off. So he wanted to use the phone to call Hill House to see whether Amber got home okay. He was only on the phone for about 30 seconds with Hill House, and it hasn't been disclosed what was said. Suzanne told him to go have a shower to make himself feel better, and so he did. Over in the Hill House unit, they had tried contacting Amber's phone as it was getting late, but her phone had died. Before Amber left, she did tell them that her phone was going to die, so she gave them Connor's number in case that did happen. They attempted to call him, but he didn't answer. Ian Curry, the home manager, said it was unusual for Amber not to contact them if she was going to be home late. Went out in his own car and drove around Hamilton and Blantyre, he said, just to hopefully see her standing somewhere or walking back, but he had no luck. On Saturday the 27th of November, Craig Niven was alerted that Amber had gone missing from the children's unit. She hadn't returned home. Police were called and were of course told about Amber going out with her brother and then not coming home. And so they straight away took him into the police station to ask him some questions. PC Scott Anderson spoke with Connor, who described him as being evasive about the last place he saw his sister and couldn't give the name and street name of the friend he went to see after seeing his sister, as he didn't want to get anyone else involved.
Right.
Connor described the evening. "I met Amber about 9:30 p.m. on the Friday and then walked around the Hamilton area. Took selfies and put them on Snapchat. He had a disagreement later on about 10:30 p.m. regarding their foster parents. When I left Amber, she was crying.
Disagreement at 10:30.
Yes.
Okay.
During his stay at the police station, he called his foster dad, Craig. They spoke about what happened between him and Amber that night. He said that he had seen Amber and that they had had a fallout. He had been banged up for 12 hours on the Saturday and that police thought he had something to do with Amber. But he seemed to be just speaking as normal and was not emotional when recalling what had happened that night. Around 10:15 a.m. on the Sunday, the 28th of November, on a cold, snowy morning in Hamilton, the naked body of a young girl was found in Cadso Glen, a normally gorgeous wooded area where children are often seen playing. Yet on this day it was all cordoned off with nobody allowed to enter. The body needed to be identified, but the police had an idea of who it might be and who might have done it. But of course they had to do everything the proper way. She needed to be identified and sent to the lab to be tested for cause of death and examined for any evidence. I'm sure you've guessed by now, but that poor girl was Amber Gibson. Her underwear had been ripped and there were obvious signs of blunt force trauma on her head and her body. Police immediately went into action. They had a suspect.
The brother?
Exactly. Connor. And they started looking at the CCTV from that night. They saw them leaving together at 9:55 p.m. and everything looked fine. The next bit of CCTV they found was at 11:55 p.m. and Connor is by himself walking along the same road he was previously on with Amber. In another clip, he is seen walking, then stops to lean against a fence. And finally, at 12:50 a.m. that night, he was seen on CCTV at his home in Blue Triangle, homeless hostel, emptying his bin. Here are the clips so you can see them for yourself. There's obviously no sound.
No.
No.
It's not like he does anything particularly obscure though. He just leans against that wall. Do you think he kind of looks like he's walking with a heavy way about him?
What, because he's chubby?
No.
Oh. Okay, so this is the next one where he is emptying his bin.
Right.
Back at home. So it looks quite full there, doesn't it?
Yeah,
the
it
bin?
does, yeah. It doesn't look like he's struggling with it, but it does
No.
look full.
Obviously he goes out of view, so you can't really see what he's doing.
No. I mean, it kind of looked like when he went out the front door that it looked like he might have been checking to see if anyone was... to see if anyone was around.
What the fuck? That came out of that hole, that did.
Probably. Yeah, he's got dusty fingers. It kind of looked like he might have been checking to see if anyone was around.
Right, I'll keep playing. Now he's swinging the bin as if there's nothing in it.
Empty, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, you can see it's empty.
Yeah.
Okay.
So very suspicious.
Yeah. Well, yes. It's just normally no, but because it's straight up, because it's the same night that his sister's gone missing. It's a bit obscure, isn't it?
Yeah. What was in that bin? Why did he need to empty the bin at 10 to 1 in the morning?
Yeah, I mean that's a bit odd.
You know.
Well, you're getting rid of stuff, aren't you? Why?
You get rid of something that you don't want people to see.
Effectively, yeah.
Tributes started pouring in for Amber. She was loved by a lot of people, including her brother Connor. He wrote, "Amber, you will fly high for the rest of time. We will all miss you, especially me. I love you, Ginger Midget. GBFN. Goodbye for now. Kiss." He also invited people to leave a light on in remembrance of Amber. He was even meeting up with a reporter at a chip shop because he wanted to pay tribute to his sister. In messages, he told the reporter, "I'm her big brother, her biological big brother. I'd like people to know what Amber was like. The real Amber. Not the Amber that people saw, but the person she was on the inside. I'd like them to know. I know some people will not agree with me talking to you, however, this is my decision." But before they could meet, the very next day, Connor was arrested on suspicion of killing his sister, Amber. It's a very quick turnaround here.
How many days after is that?
He got arrested on, I believe it was the 1st or the 2nd of December.
Oh, right. Okay.
So, yeah, pretty quick.
Yeah.
He's not been, charged.
No, sure.
Well, until my next sentence.
Yeah.
He was charged with sexually assaulting and murdering Amber. They had enough evidence from the CCTV and DNA they had received back from the lab. Also, they confirmed they looked through the bins where Connor threw something away, and they had found a blood-soaked jacket, which ended up being compatible with his DNA and also Amber's. Connor completely denied all allegations and pled not guilty. So that obviously means going to trial.
Yeah.
However, this part makes me sick, and I cannot believe what this poor girl had to endure in such a short life. Connor wasn't the only one arrested. Another man's DNA was found all over Amber's body. A despicable man named Stephen Corrigan, who's 45 years old, had found Amber's body between the 26th and the 28th of November and sexually assaulted her corpse, then hid the body in some bushes nearby.
Oof.
Fucking disgusting, man.
That's...
And instead of calling the police like a normal human being, he just hid her. This absolute sicko saw the body of a young girl and immediately thought to abuse the corpse. I've honestly never heard anything like it. It is absolutely revolting. He obviously denies doing any of this, even though his DNA is everywhere, around 39 areas of her body.
Jesus.
Stephen also pled not guilty and said he was with his father all weekend. And just to be clear, Stephen and Amber have no connection whatsoever. Right. They didn't know each other. And as far as we're aware, they never met. They're complete strangers.
Right.
So why would his DNA be all over her?
Yeah, sure.
And also he's 45. Disgusting.
Well, yeah.
And she's 15, 16.
Yeah.
No, I think she's actually 16 at this point.
Yeah, sure. But, either way. I mean, just the simple thing of, well, not simple, but coming across a corpse and just...
A random corpse, and was just like, oh yeah, that's, great. Ugh, disgusting, I don't get it. Literally, that is so far from I just don't understand. Amber's post-mortem confirmed that she had been sexually assaulted with the intent to rape. She had received blunt force trauma on her head, and finally, she was strangled to death. So that was by, apparently, he's not guilty yet, but of Connor.
Right. That he sexually assaulted her as well.
He sexually assaulted with the intent to rape. So it doesn't mean he did rape her.
Right, okay.
He basically did everything.
Right.
Within a sexual assault, but without the consummation of a rape.
Okay. Is that how it's phrased? Consummation of a rape?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I googled it.
Okay, yeah.
The trial began in August 2023, nearly 2 years since Amber's murder. Many people were witnesses against Connor. A few people from his old school spoke about Connor and described him as a loner and prone to random fits of rage. Somebody said he would talk about killing other pupils, which, to be fair, I saw as an over-exaggeration. but looking back on it now, maybe the stuff he said wasn't exaggeration at all. A female pupil described him as a disgusting human who threatened to rip her baby from her while she was pregnant. So he was clearly having a lot of issues at school. He showed signs of aggression and didn't have a lot of friends at school either. He clearly had a lot of dark thoughts and a lot of anger inside of him. Probably because of what happened to him as a child. But I couldn't see anywhere that he was getting any kind of help for these feelings.
Right.
Like nothing with like the school counsellor.
No.
So obviously wasn't flagged up by teachers, or maybe it's, they didn't care. Or they didn't care to notice, or
maybe not. Maybe
not. And nobody outside the school, so like the foster parents hadn't taken him to any counselling at all that I could find.
Right.
He could have been, but I couldn't find that anywhere. And obviously Amber was going to a kind of special school that dealt with people who had gone through traumatic events in their life, but he wasn't. So I don't really understand that whole dynamic.
Okay.
But there we go.
Well, it's a bit sad, really, on his part, in a way.
Like, I don't know if he was getting help or not.
Yeah, no.
It just wasn't disclosed anywhere, but...
No.
I don't know if she was maybe struggling with things a lot more, so they thought, she needs to go to this kind of school.
Yeah.
And maybe they thought he wasn't that bad, but... You just don't know I don't know how open he was about these things.
No, of course, no.
But obviously, he was being difficult at home with his sexualised behaviour. There was signs.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was definitely warning signs that he did need help, I feel. But there we go. During this time when the courts were preparing to go to court, it was around April 2023 when Connor and Amber's biological dad was sent to prison for committing a very similar crime to his son. He's now 62 years old. He tied up, blindfolded and raped a young woman in East Kilbride. He also strangled her, but she didn't die. Does that sound familiar? Do you know what I mean? He also indecently assaulted a young boy and beat him up. He was found guilty and sent to prison for 10 years. Thank God. Right. Clearly the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
No, not in this case.
How, crazy similar is that, though?
No, very similar. And it's strange that... Well, it seems strange that the son's done that, or a very similar sort of attack on his own sister. It's always interesting to think about or know, or just think about if he did get the right kind of treatment, would it have prevented these things? It's a hard thing to consider.
It's hard
really
to know, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think if he was getting regular therapy, I think
maybe
he could have started to understand why he was probably feeling. He was probably feeling a lot of things he didn't understand. Like if he was having a sexualized feelings towards his sister, which kind of sounds like he was. That must have been. That's obviously not normal.
No.
And I assume he probably knew that wasn't normal.
Yeah, right.
I'm obviously not defending him at all. But I feel like maybe if he was getting therapy, he would have learned, more about his feelings and how to manage them and what those feelings actually mean, on a deeper level.
Yeah.
But it's too late at this point.
Well, exactly.
At the High Court in Livingston, the prosecutors showed the jury the CCTV evidence and the DNA evidence of the blood on Connor's jacket, which turned out to be also Amber's blood. His DNA was also found on Amber's shorts that had been torn off of her and also on her body. Yet Connor told the court that he was at a complete loss as to why his DNA was on her. I'm assuming it was his semen that was on her, but possibly maybe his hair. Or maybe he had scratches on him. Do you remember that Suzanne Dudley was saying? So maybe under her nails, his skin.
Oh, right, yeah, okay.
Things like that.
Maybe.
Which is always a good thing to do if you're getting attacked. Anyone scratch your assailant. Yeah. assailant. Is that the right word?
Yeah, I think so.
Assailant. It could have been hair, but then you'd have to have the root
Strands
as
and
well.
everything. Yeah.
So I assume it must have been his semen, but don't know. Tony Graham was defending Connor. He described Connor's appalling upbringing and how he lived in squalor and had to steal food to survive. He said, at the age of 19, he has taken the life of maybe the only other person who would have been able to understand the realities of their upbringing. Amber lost her life at the hands of someone she loved and was able to trust in circumstances where she ought to have been confident in her own safety. So it doesn't really seem like they had much of a defence due to the DNA and the CCTV. There isn't a lot to report. There's not a lot of reports on the trial because in the UK we just tend to keep things fairly under wraps with the details. The jury was then asked to retire, and pretty soon after they had come up with a verdict.
Okay.
But firstly, the judge, who was Lord Francis Mulholland, had said this. You walked with her to Cadzow Glen. There you beat her up around her head, breaking her nose, removing her clothing, and sexually assaulted her with intent to rape, and then manually strangled her to death. She was looking forward to seeing you. She even posted a selfie on Snapchat. The last person she saw was you, her brother, strangling the life out of her. It was depraved, and you will pay a heavy price for that. What you did was truly evil. All your lies were exposed by the CCTV and the forensic science, who spoke for your sister. The science told the world what you had done. And on Monday, the 4th of September, 2023, Connor Gibson was found guilty. Brilliant. Good. He was handed a life sentence and ordered to spend a minimum of 22 years before being considered for parole. So it'll be 2045 and he'll be around 42 years old when being considered if he can leave prison. So, yeah, 22 years. That's quite a lot of time.
Yes,
I'm sure maybe people outside the UK would think that's not good, not a good enough amount of time. Obviously, people in America, they love dishing out for life and everything, but...
Yeah, it's a weird... I don't know. Judicial system's a little bit weird, but...
Every country's is.
Yeah, I mean, how do you get it right? I mean, is the first thing anyway.
He needs therapy, but he's not going to get that in prison.
No, that's the thing, isn't it? If you want any criminal to become a contributing member to society, they need help in prison. It needs to be a punishment. Yeah, fine, but it also needs to be a safe environment in which they can reflect on what they've done and actually begin to feel remorse and go through the sort of therapy that is necessary to understand what they've done, why they've done it, why they shouldn't do it, and why they should never do that again.
Yeah, I just feel like if the courts have decided, there's a chance that they could leave prison, in 5 years or 20 years, whatever.
Yeah.
Then they need to put measures in place where when they leave, they're not going to... And obviously they go through the whole parole process. Yeah, and they do have programs in prison, educational programs. They have meetings, not with anyone that's necessarily super a professional therapist or anything, but
no, they must be.
They can show ways in which they're, I guess, better human beings, but that's when you're in an environment where you've got nothing else to do.
Well, no, exactly.
When you're in the real world, you're not going to think back and be like, oh yeah, I better not do it. You're going to be like, oh, I'm out of prison now, great. I can just fall into my old ways. Whereas, if you do have therapy and you work through things, you have that to fall back on, and you obviously can continue doing it outside of prison. But anyway, it's never going to happen.
No, well, no, it's unlikely.
Too much money, and people just don't care enough to do that stuff.
No, the public doesn't care enough to do that stuff. It's a controversial topic in a way because a lot of people won't
I
like
definitely
that
believe
statement.
there are some people that shouldn't get out of prison.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no. I mean, yeah, agreed. Like Joanna Dennehy and like
There's definitely
Moira Hindley
people,
and
but
stuff.
I think even people that didn't get, like they, obviously they don't have a choice of getting out or not.
No.
But some people that can get out,
Yeah.
I think there's some people they shouldn't be let out.
No. Right. Yeah.
Like ones that are just they reoffend, doing the same things
Oh,
over
God,
and over
yeah,
again,
yeah.
and they're still let out, and it's like,
Yeah. No.
what?
Oh no. I think
They obviously shouldn't be getting out.
no. I think if you come out and you do the same type of thing that you've done before, then you're kind of like
It's kind of like 3 strikes and you're out, sort of thing.
sort. Yeah. I know. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Kinda,
It's
yeah.
just like, well, you obviously haven't learnt your lesson the first 7 times.
No.
That stuff I just don't get. But anyway, we've gone
Yeah.
really off track here. After Connor's conviction, Craig and Carol Niven said a statement about Amber. Said a statement that Amber was the most giving, loving, supportive, and admirable person. She kept us on our toes and had the most amazing outlook on life, considering the suffering she had experienced. When they arrived at our home, Amber aged 3 and Connor aged 5, Connor stated, "We are safe now." And they were until he took her safety away. We now have one daughter buried in Larkhall Cemetery and another child in prison. Life will never be the same. They described how they both felt that they had been let down by the system as well, the social services system. Detective Chief Inspector Paul Livingstone, head of major crime, said, "It's hard to imagine how difficult this has been for Amber's family and friends, and our thoughts very much remain with them. I hope this conviction brings them some degree of comfort. The actions of both Gibson and Corrigan leaves them beneath contempt. This was a challenging and complex investigation involving a range of specialist officers from within Police Scotland, working closely with our partners in forensic services, all of whom I would pay tribute to for their professionalism and dedication whilst carrying out their work. I would like to thank the members of the public for their help during our inquiries, which undoubtedly assisted in securing this conviction." Scotland's Procurator Fiscal for homicide, and that is it's a Scottish I don't know why I said that's a word.
Scottish.
It's a Scottish profession, this Procurator Fiscal for homicide. It's basically they assess the evidence, they decide what action to take, if any. We have that as well in England, it's just called something else.
Right. Okay.
And her name was Moira Orr. She added, "The circumstances of Amber Gibson's death are both distressing and impossible to comprehend. This 16-year-old girl with her whole life ahead of her should have been protected by her older brother, Connor Gibson. Yet he assaulted and murdered her, and after murdering her, he abandoned her body in a public park where a stranger, Stephen Corrigan, violated her further." So let's not forget the piece of shit that is Stephen Corrigan. He was on trial for violating Amber's body after she had died and then hiding the corpse and not contacting the police. His DNA was found in the 39 areas of Amber's body, including her breasts, buttocks and thighs. He denied this and said he was home in Blantyre with his dad. His dad corroborates this and told the court that his son was at home after he had had a fall in the ice and his arm was in a sling. He also denied lying to protect him as well.
Okay.
But when it comes to things like that, obviously he was, in court. You can't lie in court. He said he was with him, but how was his DNA on this girl then? Do you know what I mean?
Well, exactly. Exactly.
Luckily, he was still found guilty. And at his sentencing, the judge told Stephen, "You have been convicted of 2 horrific crimes. You came across a young girl who had been strangled to death and was naked. Instead of alerting the authorities, you decided to handle her body all over from head to toe, including areas that were intimate, private parts, and your DNA told the story. Be under no illusion what is also coming your way." He was found guilty, of attempting to defeat the ends of justice and breach of the peace by intimately touching and concealing Amber's body after discovering her at some point in the following 2 days that she went missing. He received a 9-year sentence for this. He will not be well received while in prison for his crimes.
9 years doesn't sound like enough, to be honest.
It's not, is it?
No. No.
It's absolutely disgusting.
I mean, 15 at least, I'd say.
It's just disgusting, isn't it?
It is gross. It's gross. But I think, I don't know. It's made...
It's such an odd crime as well.
It is an odd crime, yeah.
He obviously didn't do any of the
killing.
But
I think...
He just, stumbled upon a body. It's bizarre. It's so bizarre.
The concealing part of the... all of it. No, not just the concealing part. Just all of it. It's all gross. Really gross. Why would you do that?
I mean, whether he makes it out of prison or not, I don't know, because... disgusting. And finally, the third piece of shit in this horrible story, Jamie Stars. Remember him?
Yeah.
He raped Amber 5 months before her death, and another girl 2 weeks prior to Amber. He was found guilty. Thank God.
Good.
Judge Thomas said this: "You've been convicted of appalling crimes against 2 innocent teenage girls, and you have been assessed as being of very high risk of sexual violence on release. I am required to take into account that your age and difficult upbringing. However, the crimes remain serious and grave, and I will impose an extended sentence." Good. He said that he would have ordered 11 years to be served in custody, but reduced this to 10.5 years behind bars to take into account the time that Jamie had spent in remand already. He was also found guilty of a breach of bail conditions and of attempting to pervert the course of justice. He has been placed on the sex offenders register indefinitely. Good. He also won't be received well in prison, so have fun there for 10.5 years. And then lastly, as always, I want to remember the victim in all of this, Amber Gibson. A 16-year-old young woman with her whole life ahead of her. Even though she had a rough start to life, she had such a positive outlook. She loved her foster parents and she loved to sing. And after what she went through before her death, just coming forward to the police proves how strong she was, as a lot of women struggle to do that. And it's just sad to think that what she would have gone on to do with her life, but now we'll just never know, all because of her brother. And that's the case of Amber Gibson.
Okay.
Very tragic, like I said. Three incidents happened all in the same year.
Yeah, right.
5 months, apart.
Young.
This poor,
young girl,
poor
really.
girl. She'd already gone through so much with her
like family.
Childhood.
Yeah.
To begin with.
She was only 3 when she left to be taken to the foster home situation, so she might not really have been too aware. But I guess kids are a bit more.
They're more aware than you think.
Yeah.
They'll take on things that they don't even realise they've taken on.
No, sure.
They'll act a certain way, but they don't know why.
No. True.
Because they can't cognitively think and say.
No, they're just.
Oh, that triggers me because of this.
Yeah, sure.
They'll just have random tantrums about something. They don't know why.
No.
Obviously, grown adults don't know why because they're just what's going on?
Well, yeah. I mean, your kids are moulded to you, though, aren't they? At the end of the day.
But yeah, I just hate how obviously the defence had to have some sort of rubbish defence of he had a rubbish upbringing, blah blah. It's well, so did Amber, and she wasn't, going around trying to kill people or whatever.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Obviously, everyone does respond differently and stuff like that, but it's just annoying because there was 2 people that came from that same environment, and he has just killed her, and they came from do you know what I mean? So it's just kind of
yeah, that's a weird one.
But and then their dad went on to do the same thing, so it's very much ingrained in
I mean, that's
his DNA.
that's
I guess that's odd, isn't it?
Yeah, I was about to say, it's obviously a lot of things can be passed down genetically.
Yeah. Well, it's just a ripple effect, isn't it?
Yeah, but I guess the boy Connor might have strangled her because he saw his father doing that to their
their
mother
mum, yeah,
at a young
probably.
age. That could be why
And God knows
he
what
chose
else he
to
saw.
do that. But exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
what hasn't been disclosed.
Yeah, absolutely.
All sorts.
Absolutely.
So, because people that go on to abuse others were more than likely abused as children themselves.
Yeah.
So then it's just a ripple effect, I can't imagine they weren't also abused, maybe not physically, but probably emotionally.
Sure.
As well.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the dad just didn't do anything to them.
I know what you mean, yeah.
Stuck to the wife.
Yeah, sure.
But like I said, it's all speculative. There wasn't a lot of information released about this, but at least all the terrible people are behind bars. Poor Amber had to lose her life though because of it. But hopefully, I don't know, some lessons were learnt here. But we'll see, I guess. Yeah. But anyway, thank you for listening to our case today. We hope you found it, I don't know, not interesting. Just it was tragic. It was horrible. But we hope you learnt something from it as well. And I don't know, it wasn't a good story for the men. I don't know. Don't trust men. That's what I've learnt. Don't trust him. Ugh, disgusting. Okay, we'll see you next week then, guys.
Yep.
Oh, remember to like and subscribe, all that jazz.
Yes, like, subscribe, comment, chat with us, tell us what you think.
Yeah.
Blah.
Great. Bye.